Seo Yeon walking up a flight of stairs while a trio of women watch her struggling, lamenting her living with their man. As they begin hitting her, we find out she hasn't stolen their boyfriends. She's actually their sister. Returning home, she laments her brothers and snaps photos of them until she finds out who was unfaithful. It turns out they all were. Through a slickly edited and funky series of graphics, we see Seo Yeon shunned in favor of her brothers, before cutting to present day and the start of our drama. Seo Yeon is a PE teacher at school and runs into trouble with the vice principal early on. Soon after, she berates her brother for putting on a strip show, prompting her to punish him before going after one of the teachers who was there filming the whole time. Sitting down for dinner with her boyfriend Jung Tae, she immediately dislikes his new face, and to make matters worse, he's actually brought her to a really romantic spot with the intention of breaking up with her. It's harsh and enough for her to go full on montage mode as she drinks herself into oblivion in a bar. After trying to get the attention of the boys there and failing, she soon learns that she's actually in a gay bar. Drunk, Seo Yeon heads off and berates her luck before keeping a photo of the new Jung Tae on her phone, a reminder that handsome men are not to be trusted. Heading out to clean up the sick on the floor she left earlier in her drunken stupor, she runs into Kang Woo and accidentally knocks him down right into the wet sick. The next day, Seo Yeon runs into trouble with the vice president again after an issue involving his flower. After Mr. Lee rats her out, she berates another pretty guy proving to be untrustworthy. From here, we learn more about Kang Woo and see that he has rich parents. It also turns out that Lee Min Hyuk and Kang Woo are actually brothers. While they talk, Seo Yeon arrives trying to find Joo Hee. Getting nowhere, she decides to head home after rejecting Min Hyuk's advances. As we soon learn, Kang Woo used to be bullied back in school and takes his fitness seriously now after losing weight. It turns out he was bullied for a bowel issue, and that comes back to haunt him in the present too when he experiences some bathroom problems. Kang Woo arrives at a restaurant and manages to bring the attention of everyone to him, except Seo Yeon, who seems completely unfazed by his arrival. As it turns out, she happens to be the girl responsible for his mental instability all those years ago, and his digestive problems come back again. Kang Woo hurrying to the toilet in the bar. However, upon seeing the state of it, he decides to wander the streets and find an alternate option. Thankfully, he's picked up and taken away by his assistant before causing another bathroom incident. Seonyo, meanwhile, heads off to Mi Kyung's house and they discuss Kang Woo before we jump back in time and see a flashback to Kang Woo's childhood. Here we see he and Seo Yeon's woes, including the events that led up to the infamous bathroom incident that hangs so heavily over Kang Woo's head. While a shy boy called Hodal heads to the gay bar, Kang Woo continues to be haunted by voices, telling him to speak to Seo Yeon and clear the air. Seo Yeon, however, finds herself in a difficult situation when she's knocked out by Jang Mi after pouncing on the delivery driver in the park. After this misunderstanding, the delivery driver Kang Hee is brought back home, where Seo Yeon convinces her to stay. With a date set with the handsome Hyun Soo, Seo Yeon tags along to Mi Kyung's date. However, Kang Woo arrives and she immediately tries to get away. However, she reluctantly agrees to sit with him alone and share a drink, where we see their very different inner monologues over what the other is thinking. Unfortunately, as the conversation turns back to Kang Woo's IBS, their conversation is cut short as he hurries to the bathroom while she leaves. Back at the house, an unsuspecting Won Suk falls down the stairs after being startled by Kang Hee's presence. After discussing her position at the house, back at school, Min Hyuk is questioned by Mi Kyung in her office. However, for now it comes to nothing. After spying Seo Yeon with who he believes is her date, Kang Woo heads to the bar alone, unbeknownst to him that this is actually a gay bar. As all the men stare at him as he walks in, his confidence grows before spying Seo Yeon talking to the barman, who he perceives she's flirting with. As she looks up, she gasps as she sees Kang Woo and his therapist talking, believing they're actually in a relationship together. Jang Mi manages to gain Seo Yeon's number out in the park, while Kang Woo arrives at the school as the new chief director. However, Seo Yeon is not happy, and as she looks at him with contempt, Kang Woo's IBS flares up again. Before we cut to one of his therapy sessions, practicing staying calm in front of Seo Yun. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and instead he walks out before completing his speech. After taking one of his tablets, hidden in the stones of the flower pot, in a flashback, Dr. Kim suggests taking a photo of Kang Woo for practice, while the vice principal ponders just why Kang ate one of the stones, which, of course, isn't a stone, but a tablet. Determined to be rid of this issue once and for all, Kang Woo makes the vice principal pose for photos outside, but instead takes pictures of Seo Yeon in the background, who happens to be playing track at the time. Afterward, Min Hyuk sits down with Kang in his office and asks for help. Meanwhile, Jang Mi sifts through the rubbish to find the bloodied rags thrown out earlier on, the ones with the number on, only to find it completely illegible. At the same time, Seo Hyun does some research and finds out the truth about Kang Woo's familial connections to Xinhua food. It's here we see his sister, Kang Hee, play babysitter for her father, who bemoans his position as Seo Yeon continues to hide from Kang Woo. After learning about his connection to Xinhua, her reaction towards him changes as she stands waving to him sometime later. He misinterprets this as her being impressed by his car and opens the roof to show off. Only the vice principal pops up and invites him along to a barbecue party. Kang Woo and the others arrive at the party and watch in horror as Kang starts cutting the fat off the meat. Despite Seo Yeon's objections, he cuts hers too, until Min Hyuk gives her his and then offers to drive the girls to the new restaurant Kang Woo has suggested. Unfortunately, though, he's not a good driver. While on the road, he's told the truth about Kang Woo's familial connections, but drives over a speed bump, causing Mi Kyung to smear her lipstick all up her face. Despite helping her out, Seo Yeon runs into her ex in the hallway and they begin to fight. However, Kang Woo arrives and saves the day, confidently bundling him into the back of the car and asking what relation he has to her before going on to sneer in disbelief, believing Seo Yeon is still choosing guys solely based on their looks. At dinner, Kang wonders just why people take a fancy to her before bringing out an entire banquet of vegetables. It turns out this is all the food they have, until Min Kyung hands over a fork of meat and prepares to eat. However, she's interrupted by Kang, who puts her on the spot and asks her opinion on those who makes fun of other people's looks. Seo Yeon apologizes to Kang Woo in private, but after pricking his finger on the back of his head, she spies him giving her the finger, prompting Seo Yeon to corner him and stare him down. However, as she does, it looks like Kang's stomach cramps have vanished, and in their place, a strange feeling coming from his chest. Love? In the past, with Seo Yeon and Kang as kids sitting down together eating while he shows her the different pictures he's drawn. This brings us back to the present with Kang avoiding eye contact and hurrying away after the middle finger incident. As he heads back and speaks to Dr. Kim about the complications surrounding his condition, the vice principal is left with an awkward situation to deal with. As night turns to day, Kang is convinced his heart has problems and quickly learns from his doctor that he has a cholesterol issue. Attributing this to the feelings he's experiencing, he seemingly feels better until he heads back into school again and sees Seo Yeon. Deciding he needs to de-stress, he takes a me day and stays at home. With 3 weeks to go until midterms, the vice principal rallies the troops and convinces them to work hard, while Min Hyuk sifts through his stash of food to find something to cheer up a stressed Seo Yeon. After an unenthusiastic meeting with Hyun Soo regarding his fashion range, they head down and begin partying. While Kang Hee traces ominous noises to a T-Rex toy out in the hallway, back at the club, Kang Woo finds himself struggling to fit in and dance despite being surrounded by women. As he heads back to the office and starts sifting through his work, Seo Yeon looks over her old possessions from school as a montage kicks in. Seo Jeon bemoans his impossible task of raising his grades up 100 points, and as he heads downstairs, he's shocked by Joo Hee sitting in the lounge, giving her the cold shoulder. However, she soon changes her tone when Seo Yeon makes her put out an ad for a prospective tutor to help him. With a slick split-screen shot, Seo Yeon then phones Kang and asks to meet him, going on to question just why he hasn't been at school. Despite him acting cool and indifferent, off the phone he's a mess and struggles to concentrate after writing her name down on paper. Given what happened in the past and with her standing him up, he anxiously awaits her arrival. She does turn up at his house, though, and the two sit opposite one another in what turns out to be a very awkward situation. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung confronts Park when he shows up at Kang's house, convinced that he's gay and that the two are dating. It's here that she explains the situation with the gay bar, and he plays along, given he doesn't want anyone to flirt with him. Excusing herself to use the bathroom, Seo Yeon stumbles upon Kang's collection of clothes and textile work, but immediately Kang shuts the door, preventing her from seeing his project. As she heads back, seeing Lee Kang in a whole new light, Mi Kyung messages her and reveals the truth about Park and Kang via text. Convinced that Lee Kang is gay, Seo Yeon lets her hair down and spills beer on herself by accident. As she slurps it up, Lee Kang struggles to control himself. She sits right next to him too, prompting him to stand up and tell her she needs to leave. Kang and Seo Yeon stare each other down face to face, but she jumps back when he gets an erection. The embarrassing incident with Kang, him picking Seoyeon up and dumping her outside before sticking his head in the fridge and bemoaning his luck. Outside, an incident involving Min Hyuk and Yoon Soo inadvertently convinces the girls that all three of them are now gay, while inside, Kang starts crying. As he does, Seoyeon heads home and questions her brother over whether a homosexual can still be attracted physically to a woman. It's an awkward and humorous conversation, one that ends with her questioning whether Kang really is gay. Kang Woo tries in vain to stay mad at Seo Yeon, but upon seeing her shirt at his house, he instead has it dry cleaned and sent back to her, along with papers detailing an approved budget for her track team. While Joo Hee and Seo Jun grow closer together following an impressive dodgeball display, Seo Yeon and Mi Kyung prepare for her blind date while Kang Woo is set up for a date of his own by his parents. As fate would have it, they all happen to be at the same restaurant. Seo Yeon sneaks off to follow Kang's date, though, and watches from afar while Kang reminisces over Seo Yeon as the girl in front of him eloquently eats her food. Meanwhile, Mi-kyung stares at her drink, topped with whipped cream, and bemoans her luck before digging into the whipped cream and stuffing her face, given the stressful situation she finds herself in. However, it has an adverse effect, and her date calls her sexy. After retreating to the bathroom, she catches up with Seo Yeon and the two make a hasty exit. Back home, Seo Yeon waits for Kang Woo and gets him a gift, a potato head that she says resembles him. Although he doesn't look too pleased with his gift, he quickly takes to it and calls it Mr. Potato. After their evening together, Kang Woo heads to Dr. Lee's and discusses his feelings for Seo Yeon, contemplating whether he's in love with her or not. While Min Kyung continues to fall for Seo Yeon, patching her leg up while Kang watches from afar, our male lead realizes he feels jealous. Heading outside, he decides to embrace his feelings and after a bit of a song and dance, skips into school to see Seo Yeon with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. Only he has second thoughts and instead throws the flowers he bought out the window, leaving her confused. Bemoaning his luck, Kang heads to the gay bar and shares wine with Park, while Seo Yeon spots them drinking together and believes they make a good couple. The next day, Kang gains some valuable running tips from Seo Yeon at school before inviting her to the market at 10 p.m., where he turns the lights on and shows her a series of outfits intended for her track team. She questions why he's doing this, and as he starts telling her the truth about how he feels, asking her to stay by his side, she believes he needs a cover to hide his feelings for Yoon-soo. All of this escalates to a series of hilarious misunderstandings as they both get the wrong end of the stick. After some time, Seo Yeon shows up at Kang's house and decides to take him up on his offer of being his fake boyfriend. Only it's real to Kang and sets up a whole new wave of hilarity to ensue as they hug it out, and he tells her how happy he is. Only when he leans in to kiss her, she looks in wide-eyed shock at him. Kang about to kiss Seo Yeon until she grabs his cheek and pulls him away, telling him to stop being so cute. Composing themselves, together they drive to Seo Yeon's house, where he learns that Won Seok is Seo Yeon's brother, and after calling him a scumbag, tensions escalate. However, Kang is invited inside, where he apologizes for the inconvenience and calls Seo Yeon his girlfriend. While Kang proudly boasts to Kyon Soo about his new relationship status, Seo Yeon tells Mikyoung about the arrangement she believes is in place. Deciding they need to make things more believable, Seo Yeon orchestrates a photo taking session with Kang before they say goodnight in the evening. However, not before giving her an expensive cake for a gift. Won-jae is not convinced over this arrangement though, especially when he sees the cake and immediately raises his suspicions over what's happening. Eventually, Seo Yeon admits the truth about her fake dating him. Meanwhile, at school, Min Hyuk bribes Seo Yeon with more food while Kang, slowly growing fonder of Seo Yeon, follows her to his doctor's office where she asks Min Hyuk outright what sort of women he's into. He tells her he likes kind women before Kang bursts into the room and demands to speak with Seo Yeon privately. He demands she not go near Min Hyuk, and as she deliberates over what his words, believes that he may also be gay. Thanks to some crafty detective work, Soyeon receives some texts informing her about all of Hyunsoo's girlfriends. Gasping, she charges at him, prompting her to put him in an armbar. With his arm close to breaking, Hyunsoo finally caves and tells her he's not actually dating Kang Woo. It was all an elaborate hoax. However, she believes he and Kang plotted this deception together and immediately confronts Kang over it. The next day, Kang and Seo-yeon continue to fall out, with the former winding up Seo-yeon until she drives him to Dr. Lee. Back at school, Min Hyuk tries cheering her up with sweets, but it doesn't help. Her sad mood continues at home too, where Won Jae asks why she's feeling so down given she was only a fake girlfriend. Could there be some genuine feelings hiding here? Meanwhile, Jang Mi continues to obsess over Seo Yeon, watching her from afar and snapping photos until her mother calls and sets her up on a date. It doesn't go well though, and after an argument with her mom, she staggers outside, ankles cut and bloodied, until Seo Yeon kindly buys her some flat shoes. As day turns to night, Seo Yeon is forced to be Kang's chauffeur again, while the teachers drink and eat food. Min Hyuk sits with her though, and as they talk, she gets a taste for alcohol and decides to get drunk with him. Afterwards, she and Kang wind up arguing until she passes out in his arms. However, Min Hyuk arrives and takes control of the situation, gently putting her in the car and admitting in no uncertain terms that he likes Seo Yeon, with Kang and Min Hyuk fighting until Seo Yeon wakes up and walks away from the car, heading home and drunkenly stumbling inside. The next day, Kang spies her at the school and snatches his car keys from her. He silently hands her a bottle and walks away, leaving her to contemplate whether it's poisoned or not. Eventually, after some deliberation, she drinks and finds out it's not. Deciding to get some answers, Mi Kyung visits Hyun Soo, who continues to lie, spinning the deceit that Kang Woo doesn't like Seo Yeon. While they talk together, Kang Woo, meanwhile, saves Seo Yeon from the dominating presence of the vice principal and instead tells her that she needs to wait for his command. After school, Seo Yeon and Min Hyuk go shopping, where the former picks out a gorgeous black dress, and the transformation is quite stunning. Min Hyuk, of course, gawps at her before telling Seo Yeon he's terrified by her beauty. They then head to a party where things get pretty awkward, despite Min Hyuk and Seo Yeon getting along perfectly. The rest of the table watch in envy before they all donate items of clothing. Following a lovely evening, Min Hyuk drives Seo Yeon home and admits his true feelings for her, but she brushes it off as a joke. Unfortunately, this is far from the truth, but Kang Woo watches from afar, lamenting his own relationship with Seo Yeon and setting up the foundations for a love triangle to come. The next day, the foursome sit at the table and eat, where Min Hyuk splashes food over Kang following his outbursts. Given they're at school, Kang struggles to keep his cool before requesting Seo Yeon's presence in his office, potatoes still splashed over his shirt. After berating her about the track team, the two continue to come to blows until Kang tells her to come to his house. Seo Yeon and Kang eventually reconvene in his study, where she looks at his sketches and drawings plastered across the wall. Things get awkward between them, and as we reach the next day, he sees her at the bus stop. Driving together, they almost crash, prompting Seo Yeon to grab his chest, leading to him pulling his chair back to avoid her grip. After an incident at the police station, Lee Kang-hee runs into Kang Woo and Seo Yeon outside, who managed to get away after Kang refuses to introduce her to his family. Alone, he confronts her over her actions, stepping in front of her ex's car earlier in the episode to prevent him from drink driving home. He presses, asking what happened to her parents as she silently walks away and back home. At school, Kang asks Mi-kyung what happened to Seo-yeon's parents, and after some deliberation, she spills the truth. It turns out they were killed by a drink driver while Seo-yeon was little, watching from afar, bringing to light the reason behind her reluctance in showing him her parents and also her insistence on stopping her ex. The next day, Kang and Seo-yeon both end up running in the street and come face to face. He sinks down to her level and apologizes for his actions in the past. Seo-yeon slapping Kang and running away, prompting Kang to run after her. However, she's too fast, so he heads home and rehearses what to say to her when they meet again, prompting Hyun-soo to comment that he's too clingy. The next day, Seo-yeon avoids Kang-woo and, sensing something's up, Min-kyung suggests spending some time together, leading her to email over the scheduled report for Kang and stay with the school doctor instead. Kang and Seo-yeon avoiding one another doesn't last long as Kang makes his way to her house and tells her he just wanted to see her. On his way out the door, he runs into Seo-jun and calls him handsome. Eventually, Kang and Seo-yeon do sit down together and talk properly, getting everything out in the open and leaving no stone unturned. All the misunderstandings are resolved, but she tells him she can't date him because he's handsome. Kang-woo shouts over the loudspeaker at school the next day for Seo-jun to come to his office, where he tells him he's going to make his life pure torment. After visiting her other two brothers, Kang heads home and wallows in pity with Mr. Potato. Meanwhile, Juhee gets her report card through and the tutoring has worked. The grades are up and better than before. However, she holds off telling Seo-yeon about Soo-jun's outburst in the dark. Kang and Min Hyuk then head off and have a family dinner, where Kang encourages him to speak to their grandma about how he really feels. After a drunken phone call to Kang, Seo-yeon causes havoc at the bar, but as she doesn't remember anything the next day, she acts normally. It's here she finds out from Min-kyung that he's Kang's cousin. Only, she already knew. It turns out she found out the day of the date. He smiles and thanks her for not acting any differently upon hearing the news. Things finally seem to be on the up with Kang too, as Seo-yeon meets him and the two go on out for food together in the evening. After discussing the past and having a laugh together, Seo-yeon heads home only to find Yang Mi waiting on her doorstep. Seo-yeon invites her in and lets her stay. At school the next day, Kang tags along to the school trip and arranges alternative accommodation after feeling the first place was a little too run down. Later that day, Seo-yeon heads down to the beach and splashes in the water. Kang rushes in after and wraps his jacket around her, going on to tell her not to change. As he rests his head on her shoulder, she stands motionlessly as Min Hyuk watches from afar. Heartbroken, he heads back to the hotel and makes a phone call, telling them he'll take the job offer. Seo-yeon confronts Kang over him caring about her, so instead he approaches her, covers her eyes, and kisses her tenderly.